Welcome, welcome, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It is Power Ranking Tuesday. It's myself, Ashley Nicole Moss, and I have my guy Bill with me, Bill Ryder, that is our NBA insider. Happy Tuesday, Bill.
Happy Tuesday. So this is an LA edition of Beyond the Arc. You're in LA. How's
Yeah.
LA treating you? You like it? Good vibe?
I'm ready to go back to the East Coast. You know me.
Already?
You know how I am, East Coast girl. Well, I've been out here
Yeah.
since, well, not in LA, but I've been out the West Coast since Saturday. I was in Joshua Tree, as you know.
Yep.
Now I'm in LA. I'm ready to get back to, like when you're gone, you miss your routine. I miss my Pilates. I miss my morning coffee routine, my morning meditation routine. It's not the same. But
how does does meditation work? Should I be mixing that in?
So I will say it does take you I don't know, it takes you a little while to really be able to do it well, if that makes sense. It took me a very long time to figure out how to meditate well, because you can let your mind wander, and that's kind of defeating the purpose. So I would say stick with it. And when you stick with it, I feel like you'll reap the benefits of it eventually. So
I would like to meditate. It sounds very peaceful.
It's not immediate satisfaction. True story. I was at a dinner with Michael Rubin once, and we were talking about meditation, and he said flat out, I can't meditate. My mind's in 25 million different places. So I can't do it. I'm like, you're not trying hard enough. He's like, I've tried. It's just, I can't do it. So some people can't do it. Just want to put that out there.
All right. But that sounds like my mind does that too. And that's why I need to learn to meditate, to just kind of turn it off a little bit,
Yeah.
Just chill for a minute.
Just a tad.
All right. I'm going to work on it.
Yeah. So listen. It is Power Ranking Tuesday. Later in the show, you have a very interesting power ranking for us. It is teams and or players that have the most to prove and the most to lose in the playoffs. I feel like that list is going to be very, very interesting.
It's a good list. I'm excited to share it with you.
Hopefully my Knicks aren't on it, because I've been dealing with a lot. So I'm just going to go ahead and push that to the side.
Spoiler alert. They're not. They got a bright future. I feel like this is all kind of, maybe not gravy, but it's not like if it doesn't work out this year, they don't have a bright future. So no Knicks on the list, rest assured.
Yay, I love that. Okay, so before we dive into that power ranking a little bit later in the show, we have to talk Draymond Green, the Golden State Warriors, and all of that good stuff, because Klay Thompson was recently on Draymond Green's podcast. And as we know, the Draymond Green's podcast is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it is.
And sometimes his podcast is immediately after an ejection, immediately after a loss. And my favorite thing that he says is when he holds the mic up like this, I got to do better. It's on me. And yeah, I'm going to do better.
Is he reading from a script when he does that? Is it like the same script he reads from every time?
I
have to do better.
Every single time he does it, it annoys me. I love Draymond, though. I have a love-hate relationship with Draymond. But Klay Thompson was on the podcast, and Draymond flat out asked him to be brutally honest on how he feels and how the team feels whenever he gets ejected from a game. So listen to this.
When I get ejected or something of that nature or suspended, what are your thoughts? Please be brutally honest with me. It's going to crush me, but I need to hear it.
You're one of the greatest winners in the history of basketball at every level. Playoffs, regular season, one of the greatest winning percentages in NBA history. When you're not out there, it's like a piece of us is gone. Me and Steph are really nice guys. We could never be ourselves and have the freedom we do on the court without you. It does hurt, but at the end of the day, we've been through so many battles, reached the mountaintop, been down the mountain, had to climb back up, got there again, and now we have another real shot at this. It does hurt. It could be disappointing in the moment, but it will never take away from what's ahead of us and what we've done. We just need you. And that like disappointment and that feeling of just like shaking your head that just comes from like, dang, man, we can't do this without you. We love you and we need you. And we're not the Warriors without Money Green. That's just a fact. And we would not be the Dubs without you. So that's where that dang, not again. That's where that comes from. It's just like, man, it's hard to do it without you, bro.
I appreciate that, man. That took a lot for me. No, but I appreciate that.
Wow, I love it.
Klay is such a nice guy.
He's a sweet dude, right? That was really nice.
I wouldn't have been as nice.
Yeah, maybe a little harsher, a little harder on Dre.
A little bit harsher in the beginning. Like I would have started harsh and finished soft.
Okay.
But I respect Clay. You know, he kind of did it in the reverse, and he didn't want to go ahead and put the dagger in completely. Just kind of poked it a little bit and twisted it around just a tad. But I wonder, though. I mean, I hear what Draymond says when he says, "Oh, I appreciate that, and that means a lot, and that was hard for me to hear." If that was hard for you to hear, you wouldn't have wanted to hear me telling you. But regardless, I wonder, Bill, if you think. I mean, it sounds good on paper. You hear Draymond acknowledging it and being touched by it, but does it make a difference? Is what the real question is here.
It is the real. By the way, I love that you're a badass, and maybe we can get you an interview with Draymond and try to get him to say, "Ash, give me candor," and then you can show him what real candor looks like. Because Clay said it, he and Steph are too nice. So this is the most emotional explanation, right, that I've heard for what I think is the reality for the Warriors for me, which is Draymond Green is the solution and he is the problem. Can I kind of geek out, Ash, and throw some stats at you?
Yeah.
Some that I got and some that producer Aaron got that I just think I know we know how important he is, and Klay Thompson said it, but statistically speaking, he's right. Okay, so this year with Draymond Green, this Warriors team is 32-21. Now, he's missed 24 games. A lot of those are due to suspension. We know multiple times. Can I call them shenanigans? What's a nice
shenanigans? Shenanigans is a perfect word. Perfect.
That word. Okay. So through his shenanigans in the games that he's missed, the Warriors are 11-13. Now, the margins are so thin. I know we've talked about this a lot in the pod, me, you, and John, between 2-4 or 6-7 or where the Warriors are, which is 10, playing the Lakers tonight, trying to maybe get to that 9 spot. Had he played in those games at the same winning percentage, they'd right now be 46-32. They'd be in a 3-way tie for that 6-7 spot with a pretty easy record. So instead of talking about can the Warriors get home court advantage in the 9-10 game, if Draymond had played, you'd be talking about the Warriors probably aiming to be the 6th seed and avoid the play-in altogether. Also, and this is amazing to me, so Draymond came back to the starting lineup for the Lakers at the end of January in that double overtime loss to LA. He was plus 31, by the way, in that 1-point loss. Over that stretch, and as Aaron pointed out, it's when Steph and Clay, Wiggins, and Kuminga specifically, and Dre all starting together.
Right.
That group is plus 18.1 in 157 minutes with an offensive rating of 116 and a defensive rating of 98, which is amazing. And over that time, the Warriors have, this is huge, the 5th best record in the league going back to the end of January, behind only the Celtics, the Nuggets, the Mavs, and the Magic. They are 10th in offensive rating over that stretch. They're 6th in defense, and they're 4th in net rating, which is a whole lot of fancy words to say. Like, when he plays, they're a championship-level team. And Clay's right, Ash. When he doesn't, they can't do it without him, which makes him maybe as important as Steph Curry.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think anybody has ever underestimated Draymond's importance. And if you have, you haven't been paying attention. The team just flows better. The game flows better. Everything works better when Draymond's on the floor. You can't argue that. The statistics are on your side, and also the visuals are on your side. It's a night and day, just comparison between the two teams. It's never been an issue acknowledging Draymond's importance. It's always been an issue acknowledging Draymond's self-control. Because statistically how much better this team runs with you. And he has to know. Like, this has to be discussed in meetings, in film, in one-on-one individual conversations between him, Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, him, Klay Thompson, like, you name it, especially because this has been an ongoing issue throughout Draymond's career. So you know that the team works better with you. And it still does not go ahead and supersede his ability to kind of ignore certain situations and stay out of situations that are going to get him ejected. And I think that's always been the conversation about him being the problem, because he knows this team does better with him, and he still doesn't have the self-control that he needs to go ahead and be like, listen, I need to I know I want to react to this, but if I react to this 99.9% of the time, I'm going to get ejected or something's going to happen, and then my team suffers. So he needs his edge. It's part of his game. And if you lose the edge, you lose Draymond, who Draymond
I think that's
is as a player. But he has to learn how to control it better. What did they say in Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility.
What a great drop.
Listen,
be Spider-Man, bro.
Be Spider-Man, Draymond.
You're so right. It's such a good point. And there's something that Clay said in there. there's a few things that I think are interesting, and really insightful. Obviously, Klay Thompson is a very insightful, introspective dude. I think it's real insight into the Warriors. And one thing he said is, me and Steph are nice, right? And we need you out there, which I think I hear, Ash, as you're the badass on the team. And they always call him the heart and soul. He's actually the guy that has to have an edge. So the Warriors aren't soft. And so they can't get pushed around. And I think, to your point, he has to be that version of himself that goes up to the line. I don't want to say dirty, but is willing to be aggressive and willing to get in the trenches. And the problem is he's starting to get to a point where I know you don't like Grayson Allen, but it reminds me, remember when Grayson Allen couldn't stop kicking people in college?
It is not the same as Grayson Allen.
No, I am not. Well, I'm just saying, look, I didn't love what Grayson Allen did either. I'm not the Grayson Allen fan club leader, but I remember when that happened thinking, this idiot can't stop himself. Like, he's just Grayson Allen. And I'm worried that whatever is going on with Dre, that he's got to go to that Spider-Man place. You're right. He's got to use those superpowers and live on the edge. But then he just gets caught up in whatever he gets caught up in, because he got kicked out of that. Was it the Magic game the other day where he played for 12 seconds? With Draymond,
it's an ego thing, right? Because it's kind of
You think it's ego?
It has to be, because in order to walk away from a situation, and this is just across the board, just in life, like not even just an NBA player in an NBA game. In order to walk away from a situation, you have to be okay with being perceived as either A, weak, or B, wrong. Like, you fight and you constantly go back and forth with people because it's your ego attached to you. Like, I need to prove that I'm right. I need to prove that I'm the biggest and the baddest. But if your ego is removed from the situation, you don't really care what the other person thinks. You don't care what the masses think, because your mind's on a bigger situation. His ego is very much intertwined with his desire to win championships and to be a competitor, which to a degree, you don't get to that level of, athlete without having an ego. But your ego can't be so part of your game that it then jeopardizes what the overall goal is. And I think that's his biggest issue. He has a hard time walking away from things.
I love that. In that context, you think about punching Jordan Poole in the face and ruining all of last season.
And can I go apologizing?
No. And can I go back to 2016 when he kicked LeBron where no man wants to be kicked? And I know it was I've been there. It's not great. I know it's one game, but it cost the Warriors not just a championship, but I think the label of the greatest team in the history of the sport, because they'd won 73 games that year. And you're right, he hasn't changed. And the ego's important to what he does. Can I give you another thing that I want to pull out of the Klay interview that I think is really interesting for me? Remember when can we agree that Steph cried the other day when
it looked like a little watery frustration tear situation. I'll give you that.
Tearish, emotional?
Yeah, tearish. Yeah, emotional for sure.
I think Klay kind of hit on why, because in the interview, Klay, and I don't remember the exact terminology, I should have written it down, says that we just listened to, some version of, we went up the mountain, we've been there, we went down, we went up again, and he says Klay Thompson thinks they're good enough right now to do it. He says it in some way, we can go up that mountain again. But I think they know that it's harder, the mountain is steeper, the people in their way in the Western Conference, I think, are much more difficult, and time is running out. And I think that's the other thing that's going on with Draymond and the frustrations we felt from Steph. It's not just, I'm over this. It's, we are still good enough. Even if no one else thinks they are, they do. I think these stats say that they are, if they can get out of the play-in. And every time Draymond threatens that, he's threatening one of their last chances. 2016, They had a bunch of shots in front of them. 2024, they may never, you don't know if they'll ever feel like they're good enough again.
Well, listen, currently the Warriors are 10th and last in the play-in spot. But as we know, they have the Lakers tonight. I'll be at that game with producer Aaron. Very excited. My first Lakers game at the Crypto. Listen, if the Warriors win out, they will finish ahead of the Lakers. So today's game and the rest of their schedule is very, very much instrumental in where they will fall in the play-in. But ultimately, it does look like we are going to get that dreaded 9 and 10 matchup between the Lakers and the Warriors in some capacity, whether it's 10 Warriors or 9 Warriors. Sorry, NBA, it's gonna happen. Listen, after the break, we will be going ahead and listing Bills teams or players with the most to win or the most to prove in the playoffs. You don't want to miss that. Be right back.
Every spring, we marvel at its majesty. A tradition unlike any other. The Masters. This weekend on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Ashley, are you a golfer? There was a golfing ad on the I'm not a golfer.
I'm not a golf. I'm good at Top Golf.
Are you?
I am. I'm really good at Top Golf, so I don't know if that skill set
Nope.
translates to like
It
actual
does.
golf. Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I feel like I'd be decent. I don't know if I'd be,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm good at Top Golf too. We're all gonna hang out after the show. Next time we'll do it. Next time we come to LA, we'll rock some Top Golf. There's one right up
I'm
the street
down.
from
I'm
where I'm
definitely
sitting.
down for Top Golf, but I'm very excited for these waffles. I'm starving.
I'm starving too.
I'm so hungry. Listen, it is time for our Power Ranking Tuesday list. And this is a segment where we go ahead and list whatever comes to our minds in a power ranking format. And today, Bill is ranking the teams or players with the most to prove or the most to lose in the playoffs. So, Bill, the floor is yours.
All right, here we go.
Because my Knicks are not on it. So go ahead.
Do you want a countdown or do
Let's go.
do you want?
Let's go 5-1. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Drum roll. Number 5, Joel Embiid. So
Ooh.
I'm a believer in Embiid. We've talked. I think I've gotten John on the Sixers can make a run train. I know you're still skeptical there, and you think he should be shut down, and we'll see what happens. But I think his excellence this year, his MVP last year, the fact that he's come back, and I think fairly dramatic fashion and played well, and that Maxey, when he scored 50, and suddenly the Sixers are interesting, has obscured the fact Embiid's never been to a conference finals. Embiid, and I think Doc Rivers took a lot of this blame. Joel Embiid hasn't really succeeded in the playoffs. He is too generationally great to have been so basic at times, or at least outcomes are basic and mediocre in the playoffs. He's a little lower because of where they might be seated, and they may have to play ball. Can they get through? Are they out of the play-in? Can they get out of the play-in if they're in? So it's not as high as some other folks, but I think Embiid has a lot to prove and a lot to lose, Ash.
That's a very good point. I mean, to your point, he's always been injured in his career, and he's seen a lot of teams. A lot of those teams have had some great players on it. Now, whether or not those players, wanted to win as badly as he did is a different conversation, but the talent was there. So Joel Embiid is a good pick. I mean, granted, I do think if they don't perform well in the playoffs, it's going to go back to, well, he's not 100% healthy and he missed all this time. The same thing that they're ignoring to bring him back will be the same excuse they use if they don't go ahead and perform. So
no Doc Rivers, legitimate excuse though to point to. All right, this next guy I want to talk about almost as much as Paul George, which is to say I don't want to talk about James Harden anymore. But outside of that one run where he was the guy, he was great, but the guy that was the sixth man for the Thunder team a million years ago and Durant and Westbrook were there. He hasn't really done it. The guy's won an MVP. He, at a time, was the most prodigious scorer in the league. He has not had real success in the playoffs. He has been disappointing. He hasn't played well in a lot of these games. I know he's not the main focal point for the Clippers, but he's an important piece and was important when they were playing well. I mean, this is an old story, Ash, but James Harden, bro, when are you going to play well in the playoffs?
I mean, you said it all there. James Harden has a reputation of being really, really good, having incredible stats during the regular season, and that just goes out the window when it actually counts. He has a chance to go ahead and change that narrative because he had a chance in Philly, and as we know, he only did that for one game, and the rest he absolutely disappeared. It's going to be interesting, too, because we have been hearing a lot about the Kawhi situation, his knee being wonky, going back to LA, not playing in this game, not playing in that game. So it looks like in some way, shape, or form, it's going to be a little bit of deja vu for Joel Embiid. Yeah. You're going to have to step up. I mean, for James Harden, you're going to have to step up like you had to when Joel Embiid was out in Philly. Let's see if, history repeats itself or James Harden's a new man. I'm going to go with the first one, though.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I thought you were going to be really nice in there and be like,
no. I'm going with the first one. Yeah.
I probably could have gone Clippers because they've already got Kawhi locked back in. We don't know what's going to happen with PG. But I just wanted to pick on Harden because I think it was fair. I think it was fair.
Yeah.
All right. The next one, I'm just going to say it to you, and then I'm going to weirdly be more positive on this team than I have been because I did some research yesterday. But I'll let you go for.
Okay.
I think this is a critical run for the Luka Kyrie tandem and the Mavericks in general. But Luka and Kyrie, right? Full season together, lots of momentum, playing well. But if it doesn't work in the playoffs, I think there's a lot of questions about whether it works at all.
Not mad at the point. Listen, the Mavs have been playing really, really well, though. We have to give credit where credit is due. They may have figured out the formula to go ahead and better utilize the individual strengths of Luka and Kyrie, but also utilize them as a combo. It was looking a little wonky there in the beginning, but I don't know. I feel like the Mavs, out of everybody you named so far, I'm the least concerned about the Dallas Mavericks.
I know you are.
I don't think their expectations are super high. Like, I don't think anyone's thinking championship. But I said this, and everyone thought I was crazy. At least John thought I was crazy. I really believe, like, it's the Nuggets. And I think that their opponent in the Western Conference Finals could very much be the Mavs, depending on who they get in their matchups. Just because I feel like, in comparison to a lot of the other teams, they've been playing the best.
By the way, I think that's a huge win. I think even the second round and a 7-game series or a really hard-fought series that they lose is okay. Yeah. Can I give you some stats why I think you might be right and John might be wrong? John, if you're watching, it does me no pleasure to tell you how wrong you are. All right, maybe a little pleasure. So, no, but like John's been on the Mavs too, and I've been skeptical, and he made the point when Daniel Gafford got traded. It wasn't the only guy, but when he came in to Dallas and how that could impact things defensively. And I went back and looked when Gafford actually started getting real minutes, when his minutes jumped after the trade from 17 minutes a game to 24 minutes a game, and largely he was starting. Over that 16-game stretch, right, where they made the adjustments you're talking about, where they used the personnel but more than just those two guys, they are 14-2. But the number that shocks me, all right, 7th in offensive rating, fine. They're great offensively. They are number 1 in defensive rating over that 16-game stretch. That is a team from end of October when the season started up until that date, which is March 7th. So most of the season, we're 23rd in defensive rating over the last 16 games, which is a fairly legitimate sample size, and it continues now. So there's momentum. They're the best defense in the NBA. So you're right, Ash. If they get the right, you're right. I guess John's right too. If they get the right matchups, this team is playing so well that my deeply held skepticism about Kyrie teams from his time in Brooklyn and his time in Boston may be off base. But I think there's something to prove. I think it matters. They can't go out in the first round.
No, definitely not. I agree with you there for sure.
All right, the second one is the Celtics, and I know only because for the love of God, if it's not now, when? Like, if it's not now, when are they ever going to win?
No, I actually don't disagree with that because to their credit, they've been in the conversation constantly, and that's because they play really, really well. They've seen multiple finals, but they've always come up short. So I agree with you. You gave Jaylen Brown all that money. Jason Tatum has, been teetering the conversation of, is he a superstar status? Can he lead the team? I think Jason Tatum's a superstar regardless, but that's a different conversation. I do agree with you. You got KP. You've looked really well. You've been top of the Eastern Conference basically the entire season. There's no reason why you should not come out of the East, and there's no reason why you should not make a very, very close run for the finals. Depending on who that matchup's against, I think it's going to be Celtics-Denver. They matched up well against Denver last time they saw them. It came down to the wire. This should not be a sweep. This should be a 7-game series, and it should be a very, very close one for Boston if they don't end up winning the whole thing.
Can I add the Eastern Conference outside of the Celtics is also more dysfunctional than a Doc Rivers film session. So
yeah, it is.
I mean, there's the Bucks that are dysfunctional. Your Knicks are banged up in a way that is, Julius Randle, I think, is a big loss. I know OG's back. The Cavs have been a hot mess. There are the excuses that are already in place for the Sixers. The Heat in the play-in. It's wide open. All right, number one, everybody knows Doc Rivers. If Doc Rivers, by the way, I think it can happen. I want it to happen so bad for the drama. If, let's just say, for example, if the Bucks play, say, the Sixers in the first round, and Embiid is healthy, and Milwaukee loses in the first round after firing Adrian Griffin, who started 30-13. I don't think you can fire Doc because of the contract, but how do you not fire him? Doc Rivers, a lot to lose coming up, Ash.
It wouldn't even matter if you fired him, Bill, because he'd just get another job.
You're not wrong. That makes me sad, though.
He'd be like that. He'd be the head coach of like the Orlando Magic next or something. I don't even know. Like, he would figure out a way to get another head coaching job, and we'd be having this conversation again next year. I agree with you. Listen, Doc Rivers You know what it is, though? There's a target, but there's not a target on Doc Rivers' back because Doc Rivers is the king of deflection. And if the Bucks lose, and if the Bucks don't go as far as they made it seem like their ceiling was this season, which is why they fired Adrian Griffin, because he wasn't the coach that was going to take them there. Whatever. If that doesn't happen for the Bucks, they're just going to look ridiculous, more ridiculous than they already do. And Doc Rivers will 100% figure out a way to make the blame everyone's fault but his own. It'll be Giannis's fault. It'll be Dame's fault. It'll be the water boy's fault. It'll be the towel boy's fault. It'll be the physical trainer's fault. It'll be the bus driver's fault. It'll be everybody's fault.
The bus driver did it.
It'll be the referee's fault. It'll be everyone's fault but Doc Rivers. So he'll figure out a way to finagle his way out of it.
It was the butler in the pantry who did it with the candlestick.
Right.
I'll say this. You're right that he deflects. I've been having this conversation about Doc Rivers going back to his Clippers days for years and years. And it felt like there was a time when people would look at me like I was explaining that there are aliens that are real or something. I think people have figured him out. And I think there's enough of a conversation and understanding out there. He'll deflect. He will. But I think people see through him now, Ash, and they're going to if they flame out in the first round.
Quick question before we go to break. How much of this would be on Giannis as well? Because Giannis has been there. He re-signed because
that's a good question.
I want to win. You're bringing Damian Lillard in because you said you needed more help. You only have one NBA champion. And I say only one, like air quotes, because there are some people who don't have one. But how much would be on Giannis if the Bucks don't perform the way that they're saying that they can, and they will?
So people in Milwaukee who are in positions of power have told me what I'm about to say is not true, and I don't believe them. So take this. They will tell you that Giannis didn't have any say over Adrian Griffin going away, wasn't consulted, that he didn't have any say over Doc Rivers coming in, and that he wasn't even consulted on moving on from Drew Holiday in exchange for Damian Lillard. I like those people, those sources, and I've told them I do not believe you. I don't think you're being honest. So to answer your question, in the modern NBA, stars at Giannis's level are consulted. And I think he does bear some responsibility for Adrian. Look, maybe Griffin wasn't the right guy. I think that's a different conversation. But if you're Giannis and you don't protect him and you end up with Doc Rivers, that's on you. And I understand the desire to get Damian Lillard, but they had won a championship, to your point, a few years earlier. They had the right pieces. In retrospect, right? Drew Holiday pretty good over in Boston. Dame not a great fit with Giannis. I think he bears a lot of the blame.
Well, listen, we will see top 5 teams, the most to prove or most to lose, presented by our NBA insider Bill Ryder. We will be right back, everyone.
The PGA Tour returns with the RBC Heritage, April 20th on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We have a few minutes left before the end of the show here. Ashley and Bill. Bill, you're an Eclipse fan now. And that's not a new basketball team, guys. That's not a new rap group. I meant the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse. You were not a believer.
I was team Chuck. I don't know if you saw this last night. Chuck, said people that watch it are stupid. And I was with him before, but I was walking. Do you know what a Ralph's is? Not a guy named Ralph. Do you know what a Ralph's is?
It's a supermarket out here.
Yeah, right. So the West Coast, I was walking by Ralph's, minding my own business. I think I was on the phone with producer Aaron, and there were 7 people looking up through the weird glasses. And I go, "Oh, is it the eclipse?" And a very nice lady says, "Would you like to look at it?" So I hung up on Aaron really quickly, got the blue glasses, looked up, and it was like moderately interestingly cool. And I thought, you know what? I apologize for being so judgy, people who watch the eclipse. Did you watch it?
Was it a life-changing experience?
No.
I saw it. Yeah, it was in Joshua Tree. We saw it. So it was kind of cool. And the sky obviously less polluted, so it's clearer out there.
People were crying across the country. Did you see this?
Well, yeah, I saw in Mexico they were crying, but they got the full eclipse. Like it literally went to complete darkness and then became light again, which is like I've been in a complete totality of an eclipse before. It's definitely spiritual in the sense that like it's just spiritual in the sense that like the world is like the universe is crazy. Like the fact that it could be day, it goes straight to night because of the crossing of the two, and then back to day. It's just like really amazing to watch. I don't know if it would like make me cry, but it's definitely like one of those moments where you're like, wow, like nature, the universe, the sky. Like, it's so cool. And like, there's so much we don't know about it. And I think sometimes you can get so caught up like in your own world that like you just kind of forget like the wonders of just like nature and your surroundings. And I think like things like this just kind of remind you like how small you are in like the grand scheme of like the world, the universe.
Do you know what you know what does that for me? It makes me weirdly airplanes. When I'm up in a plane,
Really?
oh yeah. Have you not heard this? It's a thing with I guess like extroverted dudes. NPR did a thing like extroverted dudes just bursting into tears for no reason on airplanes. There's some psychological, yeah.
Did you
Like
cry? Did you cry on
Oh,
airplanes?
I cry on airplanes,
Or
man.
are you sober?
No, I mean both. I mean, if we're being fair, certainly there's been times when I haven't been sober. Oh yeah, like what was the most embarrassing when I was flying to London or somewhere by myself, and there were two frat dudes sitting next to me, and I'm like, oh, I watched Love Actually, and it never had impacted. It was just like, oh yeah. So like, because I'm above everything and disconnected from the, like the solar eclipse.
You're disconnected from everything. This is coming from Bill, who probably pays for the Wi-Fi if there's not free Wi-Fi on the plane. So he's still very much connected to like the world. He's probably still working. He's still getting his sources. So like you're disconnected, maybe 10,000 feet in the air, but you're very connected to what's going on below you.
Fair. Less connected. I'm less connected. Yeah.
I'm very excited. Tonight is my first Lakers game. Aaron, our producer Aaron, is taking me. I don't know if I'm going to be as cool as Henry was when he went and, out there just rizzing everybody up. I will try my best to compete, but I think I'm going to sit this one out and just let Henry, do what he does best as the king of LA. But Aaron has been very much telling me that when you go to a Lakers game with me, it's a different experience. So I'm very excited.
That's a good Aaron invitation. Can I hear it again?
When you go to a Lakers game with me, it's a different experience.
Fairness, it is a different. He's got pretty good seats. You're gonna have a pretty good experience. Yeah.
Listen, I'm very excited. As we know, the Warriors and the Lakers are vying for that 9th or 10th play-in spot as the season comes to an end. They got a couple of games left, and we're going to see how the play-in and the playoffs unfold. And if you guys want to go ahead and keep that locked and keep it locked on everything we have going on, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends. And tomorrow, Bill and John will be here holding down the fort. So until then, from myself, from Bill, see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.